Hi, and welcome to this episode. In the news this week, there has been probably the most positive article I have seen in the history of menopause in medical publications in like the last few hundred years. And it has been causing absolute outrage on Instagram. Let me show you. So this is the article that has been causing such uproar. Essentially, the article says that menopause should be normalized rather than medicalized, that there are lots of contributing factors when it comes to the experience of menopause, and that if we reduce it to a simple underproduction of estrogen, then we will be more likely to overprescribe HRT, essentially. And this caused it came under a lot of criticism by people in the menopause sort of advocacy arena, because it sounded a lot like they were being told menopause is unproblematic and therefore it's perfectly natural and therefore you should just get on with it. So let's look at this really in depth, because I think that there are a lot of things happening here which are getting confused and conflated, and that we need to get clearer about what we're talking about when we come to a natural menopause, and what women are actually experiencing, or people who are going through the menopause are actually experiencing. So, what's behind your menopause experience? Well, for quite a few decades, I would say this was especially hammered home in the 1980s, that menopause is caused by not enough estrogen in the system, essentially. And that's why HRT is called hormone replacement therapy, because it replaces the estrogen that you were producing previously. More recent research has moved on since then, but let's just start with this premise that we have for a long time been told that menopause is not having enough estrogen, a deficiency in estrogen. What menopause actually means, though, is that you have gone a year without period and your periods do not return. This generally happens through a natural course of aging, but it can happen as a side effect of a hysterectomy, for example. There are other health conditions that also put people through menopause earlier on in life. However, the perimenopause is the time before that. It can be up to 10 years before that, where the hormones are changing, leading to that point where you no longer have periods. The thing that causes that is these changes in hormones. But everyone goes through those changes of hormones, but not everyone experiences the menopause in the same way. Why is that? Well, the research in the BMJ was pointing to other factors such as gender, culture, class, disability, nationality, race, for instance, not even mentioning diet and lifestyle. I suppose those kind of could fall, like diet and lifestyle could probably be dictated by the culture and your nationality, for instance, or even your class. So they're kind of, you can consider that they are part and parcel of what we're talking about here. So it's not just one of those things that changes how you experience the menopause, but a combination of all of them. So I think that it looks a bit like this. Around all of this is that everyone's hormones are changing. And what you have here is that all of these things will intersect. And this is what we mean by intersectional feminism, is when we take all of these things into account, not just gender. And this is what I'm particularly interested in, is approaching all health problems from an intersectional perspective. So where all these things intersect, we get your menopause experience. This will be different for every person going through the menopause. Oh, I should clarify. I'm saying like going through the menopause. I should technically be saying going through perimenopause, but I think the two get confusingly interchanged in a lot of instances. So for the simplicity, I'm saying menopause. Sorry, technically incorrect. So the question is this experience, which is unique to each individual, even though everyone is having hormone changes, very similar hormone changes, is that experience natural and therefore doesn't need medication? You would be right in probably not considering, assuming that as a herbalist, I'm probably anti-HRT, but I am not anti-HRT as just a baseline anymore. I'm much more open to HRT since having done this research. And so this video is not an anti-HRT video. It is a video about getting everyone the options they deserve. So what do we consider a natural menopause? We have to consider that menopause, the transition of changing hormones and aging, is of course a natural process. But I believe that the way that we are experiencing it in the Western society is not necessarily so. I want you to think of it like this. And it's the same with period problems. You get this kind of diagram thing happening. So I would argue that a natural, normal, for want of a better word, natural menopause should be unproblematic. And that a problematic menopause or perimenopause is where the symptoms are getting so severe that they're becoming a problem for your day-to-day life. And when they become very severe, they become utterly debilitating. And this is most likely when we start to see women who are leaving their jobs due to menopause, who are potentially even killing themselves because of menopause. I'm sorry to tell you that menopause is the age group where most people go through menopause. Between like 45 and 55 is where most women will kill themselves. So on that cheery note, let's have a look at different versions of symptom severity, like reasons why symptom severity might change in each person. So for instance, if you are a white cis woman, American and middle class, in all likelihood, you're going to have fairly severe, problematic menopausal experience. If, on the other hand, you're African American cis woman and is working class, you're even more likely to have more severe symptoms than that of your middle class white counterpart. And if you are, for instance, African American, trans man, and working class, then in all likelihood, you're going to have some of the worst symptoms going through perimenopause. However, if you are Japanese cis woman, maybe even in the upper class, then you're very unlikely to have severe menopause symptoms. I can go into like why, but I'm just going to leave that there for now. And if you're a Gambian cis woman, probably more than likely you would be classed as working class, but you're least likely to have severe symptoms. And this just goes to show that even though all of those people are going through the same hormonal changes, not all of them are experiencing menopause in the same way. And this is what that BMJ article is really like nailing down. It gives a lot of statistics about why these things are different and how these things are different across class, gender, all sorts of factors that we were looking at right at the start of the video. So you might find that you have women and trans men on different parts of this scale, and the severity changes. The severity changes depending on the variety of variables that we've discussed. Should HRT be offered as a default for all of these scenarios just because everyone is going through these hormone changes? Personally, I don't think so. we can see from this research that things such as like attitudes, diet, lifestyle, environment, these can all be changed to positively affect the menopausal experience before we have to offer HRT. But some of these things will take like generations to change, and others are more immediate but require money and time to implement. Therefore, for many people struggling through the perimenopause, diet, lifestyle, and herbs could be used to manage symptoms if they are able to afford that, etc. For those that can't afford it to change their diet or lifestyle, we should strive to make HRT much more readily available than it is right now. Unfortunately, HRT is a bit of a postcode lottery, and I'm sorry to say that you're more likely to get HRT on prescription if you're based in London to anywhere else in the UK, and that tends to be because money pools in London compared to the rest of the country. So potentially, even for less severe symptoms than white upper class counterparts, HRT should be offered to, say, working class individuals who are unable to make the changes that are otherwise available. Ultimately, of course, it should be a choice made by the woman herself. If you want to take HRT, you should be able to take it. In the same way that there are many other drugs that are available over the counter that have risks attached to them, but we are made aware of those risks and given the options to us. I don't think that we can continue to live in a world where a woman's body is managed by a patriarchy type doctor. And I really hope that the next generation will have been exposed to much more positive views of perimenopause and been brought up in a world where the older woman is venerated and valued in the Western society, not just these other cultures. But until then, all manner of options should be made available with the precautions that each one requires.